Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to share the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra today because tomorrow is Sri Ram Navami, the appearance day of Lord Ramachandra.
And the other three.
And also Bharat, Lakshman, Shatrughan.
We always forget them.
Yeah, true. And it's good to remember the lordships before the appearance day, because then we can be a little bit more focused and meditate upon this particular form of the Lord that appears. So this is a very nice verse. There's actually 2 chapters dedicated to Lord Ramachandra in the Srimad Bhagavad Puran. And there's 90 plus, of course, dedicated to Krishna. But we can chant a couple of verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Purusho Ramacharitam Shavane Upatarayan Anramshaya Paro Rajan Karma Bande Vimuchyate. O King Parikshit, anyone who orally receives the narrations concerning the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes will ultimately be freed from the disease of envy and thus be liberated from the bondage of fruitive activities.
And
Tasyapi Bhagavan Isha Shakshad Brahma Mayo Hari Amsam Shena Chaturdaga Putratvam Patitaha Suraha Rama Lakshman Bharata Shatrugana Iti Samjaya. Being prayed for by the demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth Himself, directly appeared with His expansion and expansions of the expansion, the holy names of Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughan. These celebrated incarnations thus appeared in 4 forms as the sons of Maharaj Dashrath.
very good. So, as Jayanti just mentioned, they came all together. And yeah, who is Lord Ramachandra? Ramachandra is one and the same as Krishna himself. And Lakshman is one and the same as Balaram. So they are actually, all 4 of them are Vishnu Tattva. So we'll see in a little while exactly who's who. Ramachandra is the 7th of the Dasavatar of Krishna. 8th being Balaram, 9th being Buddha, and 10th is Kalki. Ramachandra's incarnation is known as Maryada Pushatam, very merciful incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Krishna is regarded to have 16 colors. He is the fully complete. Ramachandra has 14. He intentionally hid 2 colors as Ravan was to be killed by a human being. So the following colors was not present, which is Paripurna, complete knowledge of all forms of awakening, and Swarupa Vastitha, established in his real true self. So because Ramachandra, he came as an ordinary human being. And he lamented, for example, when Sita was kidnapped by Ravan. Whereas if you look at Lord Krishna, he didn't show any weakness whatsoever. Whereas Ramachandra, he showed all the different weaknesses that humans face. Of course, he doesn't face, but because he came as a human being, he showed those weaknesses. The Lord appears to reclaim us, as he is our original father. So this is one of the main reasons why he comes to earth. This earth was overburdened by demoniac kings such as Ravan. So Ramachandra appeared at the end of Treta Yuga in the dynasty of the Suryavams with 3 other expansions on the 9th day of Chaitra, Ram Navami, which is tomorrow. In the family of King Dashrath, who had three principal wives, Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. Sumitra, isn't it? So they were struggling to have children, and at a yagya, fire sacrifice, the purpose of which was to bring an heir to the kingdom. A personality appeared to give the king a pot of sweet rice.
Actually, Dashrath Maharaj was 60,000 years old at this time, and he hadn't had any children, so that's why he really was lamenting, and that's why this happened.
So they did a yagya under the guidance of Vasishtha Muni and all the other great sages, where they would petition the Lord to give a heir to Dashrath Maharaj. So then this amazing personality came from the yagya and gave him a pot of sweet rice. King distributed the sweet rice to his three wives. He gave half to Kaushalya, the other half to Kaikeyi. These two wives in turn gave half of their shares to Sumitra, the third wife. So Ramachandra, he appeared to Kaushalya. This is really amazing painting of Lord Ramachandra. He's got a greenish, goldenish color, which is fascinating, extraordinary. Bharat, he appeared to Kaikeyi. Lakshmana and Shatrughna appeared to Sumitra. And if we look at, in terms of who are they, in connection with Lord Krishna, the manifestation of Ramachandra is from Vasudeva. Shankarashan, or Balaram, is Lakshman. And then Padumna is Bharat, and Aniruddha is Shatrughna. So this is the first quadruple expansion. And these are them in Ram Leela. Lakshman was very attached to Ram, and Shatrughna was very attached to Bharat. They were inseparable. Everywhere they went together. In Gurukul, Ram and Lakshman would always be together. Shatrughna and Bharat would always be together, very close to each other. And we saw how later on that manifested when Vishwamitra came and took Ram and Lakshman away to the forest. And they were always together. And then, of course, they spent 14 years in the forest together. Later, Ramachandra was united with his eternal consort, Sita Devi. So Sitaram. He has unlimited qualities. He appeared as the ideal son, brother, husband, king, man. He is the emblem of purity and marital devotion. His teachings illustrate above all importance, and his teachings illustrate above all the importance and rewards of fulfilling one's duty or dharma. His name is extraordinarily powerful. So there's some examples of this. Ram's names were put on the stones, which were put on the ocean, and they floated because of that. Ratnakar was initiated by Narad Muni as Valmiki. Valmiki was a dacoit before Narad Muni met him, and he couldn't even say the name Ram. So Narad Muni, he said to Valmiki, okay, you can't say the name of the Lord, then say Ma Ram, Ma Ram, 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 Ram. In that way, he was able to just recite the name of Ram. So Ram is very merciful, his name. And there was different discussions between Vasishtha Muni and Vishwamitra, which gave the prominence of Lord Ramachandra's name. And there's different pastimes of Narad Muni, Vishwamitra, and Hanuman, which again give emphasis on the name of the Lord Ram. And the Muslims, they often say, Haram, Haram, this horrible thing has happened to me. So just by saying, even as part of the word Ram, they become liberated, actually, which is the extraordinary power of the holy name. And Lord Ram is such an easy name. His syllables are reduced to 2 by the Lord for Kali Yuga. Krishna is quite hard to pronounce properly, but Ram is so easy. And Ram Bhaktas, they claim Chitrakoot is just like Vrindavan. And of course it is, because Chitrakoot is where Lord Ramachandra had many pastimes. Everything about Krishna is challenging, right? His name is hard to pronounce. To get it absolutely right, it's not easy. Krishna also looks with the sidelong glances. He doesn't look you straight in the eye. He'll fool around a bit. His walk is like a gait of an intoxicated mad elephant. He walks a bit crooked, like. But Ramachandra is very straight and very straightforward. Krishna's words always have double meanings. He says one thing, but he means something totally different, especially with the gopis. They left everything at home one night when he was playing the flute, and he asked them, "Hey, why have you come and see me for?" His activities are not straightforward. Makancho, say no more. Krishna breaks his promises. So many promises he's broken. Right? Ramachandra never broke a promise. That was his, my word is my bond. So this is such a contrast between the two. But why does Krishna break his promises? To fulfill the promises of his devotees. This is the glory of Krishna, beyond any other personality. He will happy to become defamed if his devotee becomes famous. He'll sacrifice himself for his devotee. He'll break his own promise for the sake of his devotee. So there's many things which we can talk about. There's this pastime of Hanuman or Murari Gupta in the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Murari Gupta, "Give up the name of Ram," because he was always chanting the name of Ram, and chant the name of Krishna. And Murari Gupta was a little sad. He was thinking, well, how can I do this? But yes, okay, I will try. All night he couldn't sleep, Murari Gupta, thinking, how can I give up shelter of Ram? And he went to the morning to Chaitanya and he said, I'd rather commit suicide. I failed in following your instructions. I cannot give up Ram. I like Krishna, but I can't give up Ram. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I was just testing you and your devotion. Don't worry, you are Hanuman. So no wonder you're so attached to Ram. It's absolutely fine. I can't remember this Sudas Tulsi's Das story. It's okay. So Vishnu Sahasranam is very interesting. 1,000 names of Vishnu. It said 1,000 names of Vishnu is equal to 1 name of Ram. So when we chant the Vishnu Sahasranam, there's that beautiful verse. I can't remember it right now. Yeah, that's it. And 1 name of Ram is equal to 1,000 names of Vishnu. And 3 names of Ram are equal to 1 name of Krishna. So if we chant just Krishna, that's equal to 3,000 names of Vishnu. So Ram can also mean Balaram or Krishna even. He's also known as Radhika Raman Ram, the beloved of Radhika. So Ram has many meanings, but of course, we are talking about Lord Ramachandra. In his incarnation as Ram, he becomes greedy to experience the following mellows, close, intimate friendship. So he was very close to Sugriv and Vibhishan, but they always treated him with a great deal of awe and reverence, respect. So he hankered for the time when he can be close to somebody without that awe and reverence. If somebody's always in awe and reverence with you, they won't joke around with you so much. So Lord Ramachandra, as Krishna, he had very, very close relationships with his friends. He was also hankering chastisement and affection from his elders. As Ramachandra, he was an extremely obedient boy. He was never chastised. There's Krishna, he was very naughty. He wanted that chastisement, to get the enjoyment of being chastised by the parents, the affection of the parents. And of course, conjugal love. 16,000 sages approached Ram and said, we want to have conjugal pastimes with you. And he said, well, in this pastime, I have taken the vow of one wife, but as when I come as Krishna, I will fulfill your desires. As Krishna, all the rasas, mellows of bhakti are present in full, and the loving exchange with the Lord is complete and fulfilling. Yes, this is a really nice verse from the Shikshastakam. Asistyava padan matam pinastu mam adarshana marma hatam karatuva yatha tatha va vidadata lampatu matpara nathastu saeva napara. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. Okay. So let's actually, if we look at when he appeared, Treta Yuga was very long in terms of how many years it lasted. 1.3 million years, practically speaking. So when did he appear? According to review scriptures, Lord Ramachandra appeared at the end of Treta Yuga. So approximately 880,000 years ago. So nearly 1 million years ago. That's when he came to this world. Now, what do the 4 avatars represent? So Ramachandra, he represents happiness by being in touch with chanting his holy name. Lakshman represents to tap into that happiness, unalloyed service to the Lord under any and every condition is needed. No strings attached. That's what Lakshman did. He gave unalloyed service to the Lord. No time problem, no gaps in his service attitude. Bharat represents tolerance of whatever is thrown. Still, we continue to serve. And this was Bharat's unfortunate situation. He had to tolerate so much because the whole of the residents of Ayodhya despised him. Because of him, Ramachandra had to go to the forest. So for 14 years, he really struggled in the absence of Ram, but he tolerated and he continued to serve the Lord. Shatrughan represents serving the devotee is greater than serving the Supreme Lord. Shatrughan was always in the service of Bharat, so which gives us the idea that serving the devotee is actually regarded to be a higher service than serving the Lord himself. So very interesting. So let's get into the pastimes. So the 4 boys, they were very close to their parents and they were very much in love with, the parents were in love with them and vice versa. And they were so well behaved, ideal. And as the princes grew, it was clear that Ramachandra, the eldest, was clearly the heir to the throne. And when they were young, they were sent to Gurukul and the ashram of Vasishtha Muni, who taught them various sciences, especially the art of warfare. When they came back from Gurukul, Vishwamitra came, they were only young, maybe 11, 12, and Vishwamitra said, I want your sons. And Dashrath had already said, yes, you can have anything you want. But when he heard, I want your sons. He said, why? Why do you want my sons? I need them. They need to do some service for me in the forest, killing demons. But I have an army, I can do it for you. And Vishwamitra got angry. And then Vasishtha said, no. Let Vishwamitra take Ram and Lakshman. They are in good hands. So Dashrath, although reluctant, he allowed Ram and Lakshman to go with Vishwamitra. And they spent time protecting the sages from the demons. And Vishwamitra taught them many sciences, wonderful pastimes. At some point, Lord Ramachandra liberated Ahalya, who was cursed by her husband Gautam to become a stone. And he fulfilled Gautam's prediction that one day when Ramachandra comes, he'll liberate you. So, and Vishwamitra took them to Ayodhya. And in Ayodhya, they came across Maharaj Janak and his glorious daughter, Sita Devi. And they eventually Ramachandra won the hand in the Swayamvar of Sita Devi by lifting this bow, which nobody could lift. Actually, this bow only Sita Mata could lift on her own. Otherwise, it took thousands of warriors to lift the bow. But Lord Ramachandra very simply, easily lifted it and broke it into half. And then there was the wedding of Ram and Sita. At the same time, the other three brothers were also provided with brides. Lakshman married Sita's sister Urmila, and Bharat married Sita's cousins Mandavi and Shuttakirti. And when he broke the bow, he woke up Parshuram, who came running. And Parshuram was very angry. Who had broken the bow of Shiva? Yeah. And he approached Ram and he said, how can you be so arrogant to break the bow of Shiva? And then Ram said, well, I am the original Ram. And Parshuram recognized him. And Parshuram's strength was then taken by Lord Ramachandra. Parshuram still lives somewhere in the Himalayas, but without the power of what Parshuram had, because it was given to Ramachandra. So then they returned back to the kingdom, and eventually King Dasharatha wanted to make Ram the next king. So he made the announcement. And everybody was so happy, especially Kaikeyi was so happy, because Kaikeyi and Ramachandra were very close, even closer than his own mother. But Mantra, a maidservant of Kaikeyi, persuaded Kaikeyi that this is not a good idea, that Ramachandra becomes king. Because why is this all announced while Bharat is not here? There is a conspiracy going on. And eventually Kaikeyi believed Mantra. And Kaikeyi had two promises that had been granted to her in the past by Dasharatha, and she invoked those promises. She displayed her mood of anger, and Dasharatha Maharaj, he asked her, what do you want? I want those two wishes granted. One, I want my son to be the king, Bharat, and I want you to send Ram to the forest for 14 years. And Dasharatha Maharaj was shocked. He could not believe the words that were coming from his favorite wife. And he eventually collapsed. Couldn't say anything. The queen, she summoned Ram to the palace and she told him, tomorrow you have to go to the forest for 14 years. And without blinking an eyelid, he said, no problem. I love you. I respect you. I will do what you want. This was the character of Lord Ramachandra. And of course, I remember Indulekha Mataji very nicely explaining that this was a pastime that had to happen. And Kaikeyi was
the
instrument to do it. And she was requested by Lord, you have to do something for me. You have to send me to the forest. You will be hated throughout history. And she loved him so much. He said, I'll do anything for you. So now she's a vilified person. But actually she has great love for Ramachandra. Anyway, Sita eventually persuaded Ram that I want to come and I am going to come with you. You have no choice. You can't leave me home. And Lakshman very kindly also joined them to serve Ramachandra. Throughout the 14 years, he did not sleep. They stayed in the forest. He was always awake, guarding and protecting the divine couple. And then one time they had to cross the river, and they came across a really amazing boatman, Kevat. And Kevat said to Lord Ram, what a mood he had. I have to wash your lotus feet. Ramachandra said, nobody washes my feet. He said, I have to. I remember, I've heard what you do. I have one daughter, and that's hard enough. But if you touch my boat and it turns into stone, into a lady, then I'll have two daughters, which will be even harder. So I have to wash your feet. I've heard how you can touch stone and turn them into ladies. Really, he was joking, of course, but in this way, he washed the feet of Lord Ram. Really amazing. And he took him across. And then in the meantime, Dashrath died. And actually, it was as a result of a curse. When he was a young man, he was doing some shooting practice in the forest, and he accidentally shot a young man called Shravan Kumar. And this boy died. And when his parents found out what Dashrath had done, they also said to him, you will die in the same way that we are going to die. Without our children, our children, yeah. And suffering in separation. And that's exactly what happened. He died in separation from his children. When Bharat came back, when he came back to the Ayodhya, he hadn't realized what had happened. He was away. And he was shocked when he found out from his mother what she had done. He was livid. He was so angry. And he cursed his mother. Well, didn't curse her, but he was so angry at her. Anyway, she, KK, of course, realized that she'd made a terrible error of judgment. And Bharat and Shatrughan and the residents of Vrindavan, the ministers, Ayodhya, they all went to the forest and begged Ramachandra, please come back. You don't have to fulfill this vow. You don't need to be in the forest. Come back. And this is Bharat touching the feet of Ram. But Ramachandra said, no, I've made a promise. I cannot break it now. You are the king. And Bharat said, okay, give me your slippers because they will go on the throne. I am not going to sit on the throne, nor am I going to sit in the kingdom. I will have a hut outside like you are living on the floor and just having some roots and grains to eat like you are going to be doing for 14 years. And if you're 1 minute late, I promise you, I will kill myself. So this is amazing love shown by Bharat towards his beloved Ramachandra. Anyway, Ramachandra, they walked long distances, Sita and Lakshman, really enjoying nature. And then they came across Surpankha and eventually cut her nose. That led to this deer coming, who was actually Marichi, the demon, who enticed Ram and Lakshman away from Sita. But before Lakshman left Sita, he drew a Lakshman Rekha around Sita to protect her. But Ravan came disguised as a sage and he kidnapped Sita. We got to take the mask. Got it. So, so we're just preparing for tomorrow's thing. Ravan mask. Must take the mask for the drama. The heads. So he kidnapped Sita. And Jatayu, he saw what was happening and he stopped Ravan for 48 minutes. He fought with Ravan, although he knew he had no chance because Jatayu was just an old vulture, but he fought with Ravan to the best of his ability. He gave his life for Ram. So in those 48 minutes, he attained liberation. he spent the rest of his life serving the Lord. Very fortunate. And those 48 minutes were very crucial because that moved the kidnapping of Sita into a different muhurta, which meant that she would be rescued in time. And yeah, that's right. And Ramachandra, eventually they found Jatayu. Ram was very upset with Lakshman. Why did you leave her alone? Lakshman explained that she persuaded me to come and find you. And then eventually they found Jatayu, who was about to die, and Jatayu explained to them what had happened. And Ramachandra, he conducted the funeral ceremony of Jatayu. He missed out on the funeral ceremony of his father. So he treated Jatayu as his father, and he conducted the funeral ceremony, the funeral rites of Jatayu. And then there was some other pastimes. Ramachandra met with Sabri, one of the most amazing pastimes. The love of this great devotee of the Lord surpasses the love of many great sages. And she was waiting for him. She had such faith that Ram will one day come. Nobody else had that faith. She had this faith. And he did. And she served him nicely. Eventually they met Hanuman, who recognized Ram as Supreme Lord. And he introduced him to Sugriv. And eventually Sugriv served the Lord by sending armies to find Sita. Before that, Bali was the brother of Sugriv, and they had a dispute, and Ram killed Bali from the back. This is really unusual for Ram to do this. This is extraordinarily unusual. And Bali questioned Ram, you are Maryada Pushottam, how can you do such an act of adharma by shooting me in the back? And then Ramachandra explained, no, actually you are the one who is adharmic. And I am simply a representative of the king meting out justice. And when Ramachandra explained how Bali was so irreligious, Bali accepted, yes, you are right. You are right to kill me. Amazing. Anyway, Hanuman eventually, after a long series of pastimes, flew across the ocean into Lanka, and she found Sita in the forest, in the Ashoka garden, one of the gardens of Ravan's palaces. And he very gently introduced himself to Mother Sita. And she eventually realized this is a servant of Ram who has come to rescue me. And she became very pleased. Hanuman was willing to take her back straight away, but she said, no, I've never touched a man willingly. So please go back to Ram, tell him to come very soon. And she gave him a deadline. If you don't come by this time, I'll kill myself. So Hanuman said, don't worry, we'll come. And Hanuman, in the meantime, did some nice pastimes in Ayodhya, in Lanka by setting a light on the different palaces. Eventually, Ramachandra came with his armies to Rameshwar and prayed to Lord Shiva. Although Ram is the supreme and Shiva is his devotee, he still prays to his devotee because he wanted the devotee's permission to kill his devotee, who was Ravan. So there is an etiquette in spiritual life. And also the Lord loves to worship his own devotee. So they waited for the ocean to come, and the ocean didn't come. So the Ramachandra became angry at the ocean, and then the ocean said, okay, you can build a bridge on my waters. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. And then they wrote the name of Ram on every stone and would put those stones in the ocean, and these stones would float, eventually making a bridge. And this is a really nice pastime where a little squirrel was performing the service of taking little stones. And Hanuman said, step out of my way, little boy. Otherwise, you will, Terry is here as well. You will get squashed And Ramachandra said, no, no, Hanuman. He's doing as much service as you are doing. He might be doing little stones, you're doing big ones, but his little stones are very important because he's giving his full commitment. And also you need little stones when you're doing a bridge. In this way, Ramachandra showed his kindness. And from outer space, apparently NASA has seen images of a bridge connecting Rameshwar to Lanka. And these stones are still there. When we went there a few years ago, we managed to pick one up and put it on some water here, and it floated very nicely. And this is the army of Ramachandra crossing into Lanka, where they had a tremendous fight with the demon army. 9 days, Navratras. Many, many pastimes took place. Hanuman was a brave warrior who brought the mountain of Sanjeevani. Eventually, Ramachandra killed Ravan. Of course, Ravan was no ordinary person. He was a devotee who had come just to fight with the Lord. So this pastime is simply a drama. And this was a fantastic pastime that took place. The slaying of Ravan. 10 heads, different things that we shouldn't let get to our heads. Pride, greed, anger, lust, delusion, jealousy, negative attitude, ego, selfishness, and hatred. Shouldn't hate anybody. And then Sita was rescued. She was put through the fire. And this was really shocking for Lakshman especially. Why do we have to do this? She's pure. She doesn't have to go into the fire. But there was a reason for this, because when Sita had been kidnapped, she crossed the Lakshman Rekha. So the real Sita was taken by Agni Dev to his kingdom in the heavens and replaced with a Maya Sita. So this Sita that Ravan kidnapped was not the real Sita, that was Maya Sita. And now this fire had to take place so that Agni could bring the real Sita back and replace her with the Maya Sita. So after going through this fire, the real Sita joined Ramachandra and they were reunited again. This is wonderful Ram Darbar. And then they returned back home. This is the celebration of Diwali. And everybody was so happy that they returned, even especially Kaikai. And then they were crowned king and queen, and they ruled for 10,000 years. Was it 10,000? Maybe more. So this is the pastime of Lord Ramachandra in a nutshell. And I hope that was okay. Any questions, any comments?
Very nice story. Really enjoyed.
Thank you so much, Papaben.
You said everything in details. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Only like one thing you said in earlier that he came after 8,000.
880,000.
Yeah, 880,000 years.
Something like that.
So I'm just generally asking you, in our Gujarati Bhagavad, when this I don't know, have you heard about this I forgot the name now. Anyway, the people who do Bhagavad in the hall, they always Bhagavad Sapta, they always said it was 500 years ago that Ram was born. Or some people say 800 years ago.
Yeah, more like 5,000 years, because Krishna came 5,000 years. So they say more like 8,000 years ago he came, yeah. But actually, according to the scriptures, he came at the end of Treta Yuga, which is about
Treta Yuga,
yeah, which is beyond Dwapar Yuga. So it's about 8.
Okay. And I was writing the years, but I couldn't write the years. Afterward, it went away. Like Satyug, Treta Yuga, Kali Yuga. I was writing this. I couldn't write this. But anyway, you can.
I can post that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can put it. I can. Let's just keep in the head that these these many years is called this Treta Yuga and Satyug and Kali Yuga. It's good to know.
Yeah,
And
true.
I really enjoyed the story anyway.
Thank you so
nice.
much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Prabhu, did you say how many years ago you said Lord Ram came?
Approximately 880,000 years. That's approximate. Because he came at the end of Treta Yuga, and Dwapar Yuga is about 864,000 years. And we have been through 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, which is about, so that's about 870,000 years. And then it came at the end, so roughly about 880, 890,000 years ago.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Okay.
A long time, yeah.
A long time ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, everybody. Hare Krishna. Ramachandra Bhagwan ki jai.